Hello, it's Ian again coming to you for another episode of iAntonio.media. And in today's episode, I am going to be doing an introduction to a new series, so to speak, that I'll be doing on basically the history of Jamaica. Now, I have a special little start for this because I want to give you an idea of the things that have inspired this. I've been thinking about it for a very long time, and owing to how my show has evolved over the past some years, this fits perfectly well to what I want to do, what I'm still trying to do, and this whole idea of taking ownership, as I usually say, of my own voice and sharing something useful in the process. Now, as I said, it's going to be a beginning of a series. I'll be going to Jamaican history. And just yesterday, I got some material that I think will help me significantly to speak a little bit about the Jamaican history. I myself, I am not a historian, so I'll just be dipping and reading from this book that I have, but also be able to take comfort in the thought that the things that I'm saying are true. Now, the special kind of opening that I have today, there are some thoughts. There have been some individuals who have kind of inspired me into making the step and finally doing this. And it actually started last night, shortly after I picked up my book. Yes, it's called The Story of the Jamaican People, which is a historical volume. Yes, quite thick. Shortly before, or let's say after I picked it up, I met with two friends of mine. Their names are Mark and Ala. Mark is from New York, and he's married to a lovely young lady called Ala. She has Russian roots, and as far as I know, their most recent place of residence was New York, and they've been together for, I think almost 30 years, happily married. We had some cocktails last night, and it was absolutely fantastic. And one of the things that actually inspired me doing this today, as I promised to mention, was a short discussion we had that looked at some questions. Yes, the questions I'm going to go into, but the second thing that inspired this was a post that I just a minute ago saw on TikTok from a friend and work colleague of mine. I can't say work colleague because I had the privilege of working with this gentleman. His name is Frank Delay, and I was helping them with some text-related material on an album a few years ago. Could be 7 or maybe 8 years ago. And he posted something on TikTok that celebrated the birthday of Bob Marley, or Robert Nesta Marley. Now, he's very popular, of course. A lot of you, most of you, let's say you in particular, must have heard of Bob Marley. He is a large part of the understanding that many people have of Jamaica, but still just a part of it, a part that deserves due celebration. His birthday is the 6th of February. He was born in 1945, and that's the only thing I heard today from Frank, who himself drew inspiration from this artist in his childhood, and I think still inspires his music. Now, coming back to those questions that were discussed with my friends last night, the first one was, who am I? And, this is not really an attempt to really answer these questions, but, I'm sharing with you the answers we came up with at the time. And again, the first one, who am I? A collector of lived experiences. That was the answer. I think this one came from Mark. And then the question was asked, what is happiness? Happiness, this was my answer. A state of mindfulness rooted in gratitude for the things that we do have now in the present. And a sense of belonging emanating from being a part of something larger. This part of the answer came from Allah. Now, another question that I've been, pondering on recently was the question as to who is a teacher. And again, the answers that we present here and now today will not necessarily stay the same. We give ourselves permission, of course, to change our minds, and also to educate ourselves and to continue to reflect on these questions, who I am and what is happiness. And the last one that we discussed was, who is a teacher? Now, I've had this on my mind for a while. I've asked a few people, and some of them are a little bit shy to tell me what they think. But that I've been a teacher for a while. I've been doing this for over almost 18 years. And it's the kind of work that gives you fulfillment. It's the kind of work that also leads you to this spirit of giving, the same kind of giving that I'm doing on this podcast, and the connection that I'm seeking with the world. It's not just about taking ownership of my voice and, falling in love with my own voice or anything like that. But it's also a spirit of giving. Now, the answer that I have to who is a teacher now sounds like this. It's a little bit long, and it tries to fit a lot of things into it. But who is a teacher? One who upholds and imparts a set of values and attitudes with both the authority of knowing and the humility of acknowledging one's own ongoing, imperfect process of becoming the embodiment of said values and attitudes. All right, that sounds a little bit long, but yeah. It's kind of like, it's a big question. And, this is the answer that I have now. I'd be interested to see how this evolves over the next few years. I continue with my work and education along this line. All right. So I'm just throwing that out. If you have any ideas as to, what these answers could be for you or for other people, feel free to share it. All right, now coming back to this book that I wanted to start reading, and part of the reason why I'm doing this as well is because, I think Jamaica as a country, as a nation, has, it's an impressive place. I'm proud of it. I'm proud to be Jamaican. I still feel that way. And, I think you deserve at least the choice of hearing a little more, experiencing a little bit more about the history of the country and what it means in the world right now. The influences, the formative years and eras that have helped to make us into who we are and have also helped to shape me as an individual. So I'm just going to start with a paragraph or two from this book, and it starts like this. In this book, the authors tell the story of the Jamaican people from an African Jamaican, not a European point of view. The story begins in West Africa and with many different African peoples, but chiefly with the Akan, Ashanti, Yorubas, Ibibios, and other nations from the region of the Congo. The Jamaican people have never accepted what was presented to them as the history of Jamaica. The heroes of the British Empire were not their heroes. Their battlefields are in African America, in Palmares in Brazil, in Accompong, the great river valley of Hanover and St. James, in Morant Bay, wherever African American freedom fighters struggled for liberty. Africa is at the center of this story. Africa is motherland, not only for all African Jamaicans, but the African Americans throughout the Americas. By claiming Africa as the homeland, Jamaicans gain a sense of historical continuity, of identity, of roots. With this perspective, they also claim a remarkable heritage of achievement on a hemispheric scale across 4 centuries from the beginning of the Atlantic slave trade in 1518. African Jamaicans, not Europeans, built into this story of love and liberty and the passion for justice and equality. Witness Cudjoe, Nanny, Sam Sharp, Gordon, Bogle, Garvey, Norman Manley, and Bustamante. Africans and their descendants, the African Jamaican people, laid the foundation for a rich national culture by retaining their sense of spiritual values, by creating a vivid Creole language, preserving their natural love for drama, music, song, drumming, for laughter, sympathy, and wit. they created religious cults and modes of self expression and developed Jamaica's internal marketing system based in the early years on provision grounds, on marginal land, and on a network of Sunday markets and higglers. Okay, so there we have it. That was the first reading. It was, yeah, not exactly the best, but my goal here is to be authentic and human and, to give myself permission to be my usual perfectly imperfect self. All right, I am looking forward to seeing how this series unfolds and, anything that you might want to ask, maybe you have a question, you have a special interest, feel free to reach out, just use the contacts links that you see there. And hopefully the series really unfolds into something that helps to enrich the interest that you have, the knowledge that you do have about my island home. And hopefully it adds also some richness to what you already know about Bob Marley and the Wailers and reggae music. All right, so that was it. As I always say, with a small win is always a good way to begin. I am looking forward to hearing from you. And again, from lovely Berlin, bye for now.